Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everybody to another episode of Shake It Up. I have with me Ahmed Mostafa and Hassan Fakhoury. How are you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, you may have to. We're figuring out a situation here. I get my mic, y'all sharing that one. So work out your custody as you see fit.
Khair, inshallah. We'll figure it out.
How you guys doing?
Alhamdulillah. How's Charlotte?
MashaAllah. Yes, I was just in Charlotte. Alhamdulillah, Charlotte was good. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So where are you from? Tell me a little bit about.
Okay,
you guys.
I'm from the Atlanta area. I've been living here ever since probably for the past 15 years or so. I just recently relocated to Seattle, where I've been living. So that's about 9 months ago. But I'm from this community, and I grew up kind of coming to this masjid actually.
Mhm.
So yeah, I consider myself an Atlantean.
An Atlantan. Nice.
Yeah.
Have you been to a Seahawks game?
I just went a few weeks ago. Yes.
Yeah, they're on the upswing now, right? They're sort of doing good this season.
I
They
think-
started out bad, and then they're kind of like
Yeah, I don't follow too well. They were doing better than I expected, is what I kind of figured out
I think they're second in
their
the
division.
NFC West. I think they're second. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their playoff picture is like because they kind of lost. I think the game I went to, they lost, so I don't know. But
Who did they play?
they played the Niners.
Oh God,
I mean, yeah,
Dang.
it was not. Yeah,
that must have been fun to watch though, because that's a rivalry game.
yeah, it was a good game. Actually, I got lucky because I was in the suite for that game. I got a fortunate arrangement. So
Mashallah, mashallah. Well, we'll talk after the podcast about that.
yeah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
What about yourself?
Hassan? How you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I was born in Chattanooga, actually.
Chattanooga?
But grew up mostly in Atlanta.
Okay.
Stayed in Atlanta for college as well. And then I'm finishing up medical school in Tennessee now, alhamdulillah. So good to be here.
Mashallah. But no football games for you.
No football games, although I am going to a Hawks game next week, inshallah, against the Bucks.
Nice.
Inshallah, yeah.
Enjoy. So, are you guys are the same age? You went to high school together?
We went to college together. We were just saying that we didn't go to the same high school. We did go to the same middle school.
Okay.
But we were actually roommates in college.
Who bullied who?
It was mutual.
Oh
actually.
no!
Yeah. Well, it depends if you're talking about FIFA or other things. Because Ahmed definitely bullied us in FIFA.
I was the FIFA bully.
Yeah.
You're the
But I
you're
also
the guy. Huh?
But I also got bullied myself. So give and take.
So you took it out on everybody else in FIFA.
In our apartment, yes.
Yeah.
This is in college, right?
In college.
Mashallah.
Yeah. As soon as you ventured out of the apartment, there were some real experts, mashallah, in FIFA and MSA.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite team in FIFA? I mean,
soccer?
it changes all the
In-
time, but
For me, it's Chelsea. Chelsea is my team.
Chelsea fan. Okay.
Yeah.
You?
I used to play with Chelsea as well.
Really?
Yeah.
When was
Sometimes
this?
PSG. This was back in we were playing like FIFA 17, FIFA 16.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
What about you?
Yeah.
You a FIFA guy?
No.
No.
It's been a long time. I mean, I played with a few of my friends, but I remembered why I stopped playing. Like I used to play it on the PS1 and then the PS2.
Yeah.
And it's just like the stuff that happens in the mechanics and just going back and forth and
Yeah.
the stress with it. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna play this.
But FIFA's an interesting game because like people who don't play soccer or don't know anything about soccer would like be really obsessed with FIFA, which is the one thing I found interesting because like whereas someone who doesn't play basketball or football, if they try to pick up those respective video games, it's a lot more difficult. At least in my experience,
I
like
don't
Madden.
know how people play football on
Madden, right?
I
Or
don't
like
know how
yeah.
they do it. It makes no sense.
It's very difficult, and even
Like,
NBA,
how
I
do you
feel like
control 11 players.
2K, yeah.
yeah, I don't even know, but yeah, I feel like FIFA's like the most popular like sporting game.
And they kept making it harder as the years.
Yeah,
I
you can
feel
do
like as
tricks
the years
now
gone-
and all
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that was when it was a new thing. That was like, blowing everyone's mind. It's like you can
Yeah.
use dribbles and tricks and stuff.
Yeah.
That was interesting. But
Yeah.
all right, mashallah. I'd rather just play.
Play actual soccer.
Yeah, but I haven't played in a while, so
RCM is starting a club, aren't they?
they are.
This
Yeah,
upcoming month, inshallah.
That's just getting that
Soccer and basketball, inshallah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes, inshallah. I don't know if it's for kids or for elders. But
I heard it's for adults.
it's for adults.
Yeah.
Adult soccer league sounds.
At least according to the group
Very
chats,
good.
which I don't know how much you can trust
Right.
that, but that's what I saw.
Inshallah. And you guys play sports?
This brother, mashallah, he does it all, mashallah.
Actually, can you explain something to me? What is pickleball?
Okay, you can explain pickleball.
Pickleball is basically, so it got really popular during the pandemic. It's a kind of a hybrid between ping pong and tennis. It's a smaller court than tennis. You play with wooden paddles, and the ball is a plastic ball. So it's supposed to be a lot easier. It's supposed to be easier.
Is that for kids, like tennis for kids or something?
I always see older people play it. I don't.
It's mostly older because it's
I mean,
like
now,
pretty
yeah.
easy. It's a pretty easy sport to pick up relative to tennis and other sports. And now there are actually leagues, and they're trying to make it a spectator sport. We'll see how that is.
Yeah, it was pickleball that at the gym I go to now, the Lifetime, they have all these like and then they have
there's squash, there's racquetball.
no, there's another one. This one, it's like a trampoline in the middle. And they're like throwing
spikeball.
Yeah, that one.
Spike ball's great.
We
man.
play spike ball too. Yeah.
No.
We try to play spike ball.
No.
Well, you have
Yeah.
to play it. It'll change. You'll change your mind about it for sure.
It looks fun, but
It's
it's like
actually
it looks
very-
really hard.
It's actually very intense. Like if it's played right, you're just like jumping around, diving all over the place. I mean, I don't play it like that, but
I'm old now, man. I don't know if I can handle all that. But
yeah.
it'd be worth a shot. I'll do it for the memes.
It's good. It's a really fun
it's
fun game
fun.
to pick up. Yeah.
Inshallah. So you're visiting for the week.
For a couple weeks, yeah.
Nice.
Alhamdulillah, I have flexibility. Just to come back about every 6 to 8 weeks. I come back for like 2 weeks or so. So
Okay.
alhamdulillah.
And I heard you guys talking about chess.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit. I used to play when I was younger.
You're
Yeah,
a chess master here.
I wouldn't say master. I would say
Pretty
close. I would say very
Pretty
amateur.
close? Okay.
No,
Very-
definitely
very amateur.
Well, the problem
That's
is
a chess move right there. Doesn't Andrew Tate play chess?
oh, he does. Actually, he's very good at it too.
Is he?
Vida
Yeah.
Pierce Morgan.
Yeah. So apparently his dad.
Oh, I saw that. Was that were they acting or was that real?
No, I think that was real.
I didn't see the thing, but I think it's real. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad is an international master. That's what I heard at least, which is like pretty legit.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the people that play that are just such big brain that.
I think you just get used to playing the game. Like, there's probably a correlation between like intelligence and like how good you are at chess, but I think you just learn to play the game, and like maybe some people's brains are just like really wired at like or really good at like finding those patterns or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a great game.
Well, I mean, the brain that's able to see like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And change course based off of the change of the game and how it's continuously changing.
Yeah.
Like you're analyzing scenario after scenario after scenario and then reanalyzing over and over again.
Yeah.
You gotta be big brain for that.
It's actually very intense. Grandmasters actually burn like 5,000 calories in a chess game, which is yes.
No way.
Yes.
No.
And I've told this to people, and they're
Bro,
like, you're
if
tripping.
that's the case, I've burned 5,000 calories taking my
No.
organic 2 test.
No, but hold on. These guys are not like me and you. They're actually like their brains are firing in a different level when they're playing chess. Like you were saying, they're analyzing
Do they take
concepts.
ice baths on their head afterwards?
it's like steam coming out of their head. But yeah, it's legit.
That's insane. I didn't know that. 5,000 calories.
Yeah. And I had someone who was like, "Nah, you mean 500?" So we looked it up on the spot, and it was like 5,000.
And how hot is it typically? Are they sweating a lot? Or are they?
I don't know if they're sweating, but like it's very intense. Like their focus. It's not like taking an exam. Like taking an exam is hard, but these guys are there's like a chess game's like 5-6 hours, like plus. So yeah, it's intense.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not playing the speed one, yeah.
Yeah.
Speed
It
one
depends.
is-
Blitz is Blitz is like they're playing
The
it
Blitz
like
ones are-
they're playing on autopilot. Like
Yeah.
usually like
that one's more, I guess, reflexes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I played one tournament when I was like, 10. Then we ended up getting there was like this leather pouch that has the roll and the pieces and all that. Oh man.
Good memories, bad memories, neutral.
I don't know, man. It's like that phase of your life where you're starting to get into these competitive things, being on the stage or in the competitive moment, it's actually very intimidating. So when you think about it, you're like, ooh, that was tense. And then you feel bad later. You're like, man, I could have done better. I remember trying out for the soccer team in middle school. was 6th grade. I didn't make the cut. That was heartbreaking. That like it hurt. I was crying and everything. It was like a whole thing. But yeah, it's like when you're put in the tense moment and then you freeze up, your nerves kind of just like lock in, and then afterward you start beating yourself up over it. So
yeah, I've had those for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I did intramural soccer and stuff. That was different, but
yeah, we did that.
We played together.
We did that as well.
Yeah,
we played.
We didn't cry though.
We were bad though.
Yeah, we were pretty bad but
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of sports, my friends in Charlotte will remember this, but we were doing intramural flag football. All my friends, we don't know strategy or anything like that. We're just like we're playing. So they had an A bracket and a B bracket. We completely obliterated the B bracket because we were always playing sports. We were all very athletic, and we're playing against people that are just doing it for fun, right? Playoff time, because we were the top of the B bracket, they put us in the A bracket, and we played a team. I remember it. It was insane because the way they even set things up. There was one moment where the quarterback, he got the ball. He got the snap, and I just pounced, and I got the flag. That was the first play of the game. And then after that, he looked at his friend. He was like, all right, I need you. He's fast. Watch out. I need you to stand here. And he adjusted it, and then after that, I couldn't touch him. Their strategy was so insane. We lost 47-7. We got obliterated.
Wow.
By the end of it, we're just like, when is this game over? We're done.
That's kind of funny because we had the same experience. There was this team at Georgia Tech for intramural soccer called SHEP, the Society of Hispanic Engineers. These guys were on a different level.
Dang.
The games are like 20-minute halves, or like it's not even a long game. We lost.
Was it indoor or outdoor?
It's outdoor.
Oh,
like 11v11.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And so we were playing, like we had like a GTA MSA team, and like I got some of my high school friends to join and whatnot. We were losing so bad, it was 10-0. And the referee just like blew the whistle. We were like, what's going on? He's like mercy roll, like the game's over. We were like, what?
That's like Qatar versus
Yeah.
Who did they lose to? The first one was Ecuador?
Ecuador, yeah.
Oh my god.
It was funny. We were just like, what? What's
Yeah,
going
these
on?
organized guys, they do these small tweaks and stuff, and they have these drills, and they know what to do, and you can immediately see the difference between someone who just plays for fun and someone who plays for...
Yeah, for sure.
And we also took a volleyball course. Me and my friends were like, just for fun. And there was this one person that just like spiked from the back, and it hit someone's face on our team. The dude had volleyball markings on his face afterwards. It was like a laser.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but the teacher taught us a bunch of techniques and stuff like that. It was good knowledge. But yeah.
Which sports do you still keep up with?
I mean, obviously, I just do lifting at this point. I tore my ACL in Medina in 2018.
Oh man, soccer?
Playing soccer, yeah.
Yeah.
And then did the surgery in 2019, and then after that I was like, all right, I'm not gonna risk it, because re-tearing or tearing the other leg or tearing the same leg, I'm like, I just don't want to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we play volleyball with the guys. Since it got cold, we haven't played, but I enjoy volleyball. Volleyball is fun.
Yeah. You like spike ball then?
Is there a lot of left and right? It seems like it. How do they not crash into each other? That's what I'm confused about.
I don't know. Even like I played like 2-3 times. I've never really crashed into anyone.
Yeah.
Maybe just from watching it on video, it's different.
Yeah, it's not usually an issue, and also you get penalized if you get in someone's way. You have to replay the point. So people typically are very cognizant of where the other players are. We should make it an RCM thing.
RCM spike
ball.
Let's do it.
Spike ball at the back. Next to the tents.
Yeah.
All right, inshallah. So what else are you guys? What do you guys do? What's going on?
I think maybe like kind of a segue into the discussion today. But me and Hassan have always kind of been we like to explore kind of extracurricular like topics, particularly as it relates to like kind of Islamic education and whatnot. Like just as a pastime, like watching certain YouTube videos or discussions, or like I think you're watching the Yasir Qadi Sira, which me and my friends also watch. So we like kind of our friend group like to get involved in those kind of discussions and conversations. After we graduated college, we also participated in some kind of like reading some of the like historical books by Imam al-Ghazali and Imam al-Qayyim. At least trying to read those books. They're very like kind of advanced and challenging, and I think they require like a bit of explanation. But that's kind of stuff we'd like to do on the side.
Like the philosophy stuff, or
philosophy and like tazkiyat and nafs, like purification of the self type stuff. I guess
doesn't
not too much.
Yusuf have a book on that? What was it? It was something about oceans. I'll put it in the link.
He has purification of the heart.
Yeah. It's based off of the Ghazalian style.
Okay,
but yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think most of the time we're inspired by the podcasts and things we see online. Like, I think the impetus for us was there's a sheikh named Mikhail Smith at Qalam, and started a podcast called The Sufficient Answer, Al-Jawab al-Kafi. So we decided to go ahead and read that book. It's all based off of the book from Ibn al-Qayyim. So I think that was sort of our inspiration. We decided to take it from there and sort of try to direct our own learning, which is challenging, but I think it was rewarding at the same time.
Yeah. So it's more like casual reading, and then discussion with your peers.
Casual reading, yeah. We'd sort of pause. We would read a couple lines and pause and discuss, and try to take notes as well, like on a Google Doc, and try to revisit it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that been? How do you feel about that?
It's been very challenging. It's been challenging and rewarding at the same time. I think we both try to read it in Arabic, so there's challenge in just like both of us not having like an advanced level in Arabic. So we would like look at books that maybe have translations just to ease that kind of divide a little bit. But even sometimes the meaning would get a little heavy. Like we would read something and it just like kind of takes us back. And so those are the times where I think it's helpful to have like someone who's more knowledgeable, kind of get you through those obstacles. Kind of like in the podcast, like having a knowledgeable person like Sheikh Ahmed Smith, just kind of going through those. I think our experiences reading helped, and they were good. But I think those kind of books, at least that we were trying to read, I think it's more beneficial to have someone kind of more knowledgeable, able to break down those meanings. But I think we both shared this passion of kind of increasing our Islamic knowledge in one way or another, and just kind of continuing that journey. And so this is where we started, and I think we kind of take different paths along the way. Like I think now that you're kind of into the Sira stuff, and so it's just like different forms of both of us trying to advance that journey of Islamic knowledge. So.
Well, I mean, Islamic sciences are they're broken down into different utilities, and it depends on what they're used for. Generally, they'll break them down into I'll just say it in layman terms, but a science that's used as a tool versus a science that's sought after. So the tool helps you attain that greater knowledge. So for example, they'll mention like aqidah as a science. You're gonna need certain things before you actually understand that science. I'm not talking about the ABCs. I'm talking about the actual depth of it and the arguments that are going back and forth. You need certain things before you reach that. Just like how when you want to learn, I'm a chem major. So if you want to go into chemistry, you first have to learn a little bit of math. Otherwise, if you don't have that algebraic, logical thinking, how are you going to understand mechanisms, for example, that are based off of logic? And so, a lot of people, what they'll mention is Arabic, learning Arabic. And I'm not talking about just learning and memorizing words, because that's not how Arabic works. Arabic is a root-based system, so each word goes back to a 3-letter root, and then from there it branches out into different things. And then that is morphology. Then grammar and syntax and these other sciences and these are tools for you to understand the Quran, understand what the scholar is saying in front of you, understanding, the words and the rhetoric that's being used. So, for example, language helps you understand those greater sciences. One of the issues and this separates between a more traditional Eastern style from an Orientalist Western style. Oriental, they share in many ways, but one way that they differ is that the Orientalist style empowers an individual to, it's based off intellectualism. You can learn if someone else can do it, you can do it. And so open a book and learn as much as you want and read as much as you want and draw your own conclusions. And that has its benefits to it when it comes to science, when it comes to exploration, when it comes to, even literary works like poetry and stuff like that. But when it comes to religious sciences, they're not based off deduction. It's based off of transmission. Our deen is based off of what we're told, not what we can deduce. And so that has a different way of approaching it and addressing it. And traditionally, the Eastern traditional style is that you layer it. So first you would start out with these basics, right? And you would learn Arabic. You would normally master Arabic. And then you would start to layer each science. And there's 50-something sciences. Each of them tackle a very specific, area of expertise, whether it's philosophy, whether it's tazkiyah, whether it's fiqh, whether it's usul. All of these sciences are very, very niche. Usually people dedicate their whole life for a specific science, and they know something about everything and everything about something. And they layer their learning. Today it's a little different, and I know that you guys are diving into this casually.
Yeah.
So it's obviously I'm not asking you to be ulama. But generally the tendency is it's a very different approach. It's more, before, for example, diving into the master books, which are great to read. I mean, it's not like you're barred from opening that book and trying. You doing that is a learning experience on your own, but you'll realize as you unlock these other works, tedious as they may be, when you go back, you start to understand it from a whole different, you've unlocked a new dimension, and it just completely is different than what it was before. Yeah.
So I guess with that in mind, there's so many layers to it, and it takes dedication of your it takes your primary dedication. You have to almost like a full-time job to kind of layer yourself up. For someone like me and Hassan, we have our other kind of careers and whatnot, and school, and in Hassan's case, what would be a good pathway for continuing Islamic knowledge, given that we don't have the time to layer ourselves up? Should we start from the bottom and learn Arabic and then learn those other base kind of foundational stuff, or is there another kind of way to just kind of keep us engaged in learning? I guess for the young professional.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're busy. It's interesting though, because 1 + 1 does not equal 2 in this regard. And actually, in any learning case, 1 + 1 almost never does equal 2. It's usually a person's learning is parabolic instead of linear. If it's linear, then the person is usually considered, as humans, we are parabolic, because you're learning something, you're adding that experience to your brain, and then it's attributed to a memory, and then you recall that memory immediately. So it's not as in the beginning it's slow, and then it gains traction. I would advise to take one utility or a tool, such as Arabic, and make that something that it's like a little bit of a daily thing that you just kind of you 5 minutes. Oh, okay, that's what waw al-atf is, or that's what an-nat is, or that's what al-hal is, and that's what al-khabar is. And so and it'll actually make your learning experience much more enjoyable. And so anybody that I encounter, I always tell them you have to learn Arabic, because that's the vessel of the deen. You can't learn when you're learning the deen from a translation. A translation is an interpretation of the person who's translating, right? That's why, for example, a person who's reading the translation of the Quran, it's never a one-to-one translation. How do you translate certain things, even from English to Arabic? How do you translate what's up? Tell that to somebody. Explain that to somebody from,
Right.
from overseas.
Right.
Ish what? They'll look at you like, huh?
Right.
So there are certain things. It's just like the way the language is. You can't. And I was actually one of my students. I was telling him, in English you have to have a verb in every sentence. There's always a to be. That's just the language, the way the language works. Arabic, it doesn't have that. You can have a mubtada and a khabar, and the verb is implied, right? So when you learn the Arabic language, and you have that vessel that carries the deen, you'll actually see the deen in a very different light. And Umar radiallahu anh, I think it was Umar radiallahu anh, he says that when you learn the Arabic language, it actually improves your mannerisms, because the language itself has an effect on your mannerisms. And Arabic is known for its etiquette, and so it increases a person's etiquette and his manners and how he interacts with others.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So just to follow up on that, you mentioned maybe 5 minutes a day. Are there any resources that you would recommend or point towards
For Arabic?
for Arabic?
It depends on everyone's level, honestly. Yeah, everyone's level is different. Having a teacher is, someone that would explain. It's the best route. I know Norman Ali Khan has some really good stuff at Bayna. I heard really good things about his, and a lot of the stuff that he gets, he actually gets it from Sheikh Samrai. He's a
Samurai.
Very, very, very strong intellectual and very, very strong linguist. And so it's a good, he's a good starting point. Local masjid, local programs that you may have, those are good. You guys are in different cities. You're in Tennessee and you're in Seattle.
Correct.
I mean, having someone local, or if you can find somebody online, like one of these graduates from whichever institution, and just making it like a casual. And a lot of guys your age are going overseas now. It's different than it was before. So there are a lot of people that are learning. Making that halaqah with them, somebody that's your age, you guys can say it in a more jokey manner. It's not like it's not like a mastara, a ruler. Pay attention. So I mean, that's what I would suggest. And then so to encourage you to learn further, have those other sciences that make it enjoyable. Sirah, for example. If you're gonna talk about Sirah and you mention, I'm drawing a blank. So there's a famous thing that you learn in Arabic, man shabaha abahu fama zalam, right? Whoever copies his father, then he has not done injustice, right? That comes back to one of the stories of the Sirah. I'm drawing a blank of the name of the person. His son later accepted Islam, and he was known for his generosity, right? And so you're tying the generosity part to language, and it's something that you'll never forget. So when you have that interesting subject, like some people, they really enjoy fiqh, some people they really enjoy mantiq, some people they really enjoy tazkiyah, and having that Arabic that kind of flows, you're kind of swaying between that thing that you're learning recreationally and that thing that you're learning that helps supplement it. And it's a cycle of encouragement that you would have. And pick two things: one tool that you're going to use that helps enhance your learning, and one that you enjoy. Learn what you enjoy. Sirah is a very beautiful subject. There's a lot about it that it's funny. Sirah is like one of those subjects. It's like tafsir, where it touches on everything.
Right.
Politics. Learning about politics. The Prophet ﷺ's biography is excellent in learning about that. There were cases of espionage that happened during the Prophet ﷺ's life from companions, how he handled it. You look at financial policy, you find that in the Sirah. You look at, for example, marriage and divorce and relationships. You find that all of it is in the Sirah, and so it's like it's like a package that you get everything from it. So it's a great place to.
So you actually don't recommend, or you don't necessarily like recommend, like achieving base knowledge in like, so like let's say you go and you learn Arabic and you're like, you know, you have decent kind of fundamentals. You wouldn't necessarily say you should start with Sira, or you should start with maybe tafsir or a fiqh, or you would say it's okay to just proceed in whichever one interests you, as long as you're learning.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is, though, you know, the danger of jumping into certain sciences. There's this funny thing that happens when you learn. You start out and you're like very humble, right? Then a lot of people take fiqh as a kind of like a case study. Some people who learn fiqh, they'll respect everybody in the beginning, and then they'll learn a little bit based off of their teacher. It's kind of like a chick when it first sees whatever it sees, it thinks it's its mother, right? And so whatever it sees, whatever the person sees in the beginning, he's like, all right, that is the truth, right? And they become very harsh. Everybody who does everything else, you're wrong. That's not how you're supposed to pray. That's not how you're supposed to do this. That's not, because that's what I was taught, right? Immediately there's like that. It's a phase. Then what happens is you get humbled. And you realize that, hold on a second, it wasn't always the case that, you know, there is valid difference of opinion here. And that's why a true scholar, when you actually sit with them, they give you a prism. They give you like this range of opinions, and you know, sometimes they don't, when you're talking to them, you're like, what do you think? I mean, like, give me one. But he won't be able to give you, or he won't feel comfortable in decisively saying this is the truth and this is falsehood, because there's this gray area kind of in between a lot of these issues. So to kind of counter that before it even happens is acknowledgement, right? Personal acknowledgement. I know that I'm not doing this because I'm a scholar, but I'm learning because, for example, I want to learn the Shafi'i madhab, because it's a starting point for me, and I respect everybody else, alhamdulillah. You know, and having that acknowledgement and that realization is very powerful for a person's growth.
So kind of going off that, one thing that, you know, there's like when you're about to embark on studying, or even just like a lesson, right? Even today when you started doing the fiqh lesson, you started off talking about, there's a dua where you ask Allah to allow the knowledge to benefit you, right? So one thing that I kind of struggle with is, first of all, I don't know what I don't know. That's the first problem. And the second problem is, sometimes I feel like it's hard to predict for me to know whether that knowledge is going to be beneficial for me. So that's why I think Ahmed was trying to ask that about, you know, like, what is truly necessary and what sort of foundation should you go for? In other words, is there a hierarchy of knowledge? Yeah, of importance, if you were to prioritize something.
I mean, if you're going to prioritize it in black and white, you know, number one is knowing your creator. So everything to do with your creator, that's number one, every person should know. And then after that comes the practical elements of what you're going to live your life by. So you have to know how to pray. You have to know the rules of prayer. You have to know the rules of fasting and zakah. It's interesting how many questions people ask about zakah after the fact. Well, you're supposed to know this beforehand, kind of thing, right? And you know what's funny is when take a credit card, for example. Person signs up for a credit card, and then he's like, "Well, I didn't know I had to pay interest on it." What would you say? You should have read before you got in. So it's the same thing, you know, like with zakah, or with siyam, or with marriage, or with, you know, a lot of people that get into marriage, they get married, they don't know the rules of marriage. How is that? Like, you know, they get into a certain business that they want to practice. They want to invest in certain things, and they didn't look into it before they stepped into it. So there's an order of operations. And so from a practical element, it's what is most practical for me. That's what you must know for sure.
Mhm.
I'm assuming based off of our conversation that that's something we're already doing. My assumption is that before any of us want to do something, I learn the halal and the haram and what I'm supposed to do, what I'm not supposed to do.
What you're talking about with enjoying the.
I was on more of
Right,
a
right.
recreational. And Ibn Raslan, he mentions it. I've mentioned it before in other halaqas. He says, وَالْعِلْمُ أَسْنَى سَائِرِ الْأَعْمَالِ وَهُوَ دَلِيلُ الْخَيْرِ وَالْإِفْضَالِ فَفَرْضُهُ الفرض
Mhm.
علم صفات الفرد Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
Mhm.
الفرد
Mhm.
مع علم ما يحتاجه المؤدي from what a person has to do practically من فرض دين الله في الدوام from the things that he has to do that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mandated upon him كالطهر والصلاة والصيام والبيع للمحتاج للتبايع and transactions, a person has to know the halal and haram of transactions. والبيع للمحتاج للتبايع وظاهر الأحكام في الصنائع. And any of the crafts that a person is involved in, he has to know the halal and the haram. After that, everything is fard kifaya, meaning that some people have to know it to answer the questions for others. And you also have to know وعلم داء للقلوب مفسد كالطهر كالعجب والكبر وداء الحسد. So anything that corrupts the heart, you also have to know these things, such as al-hasad, such as pride, arrogance, envy, all these other vile things. The person has to know, and that these are like bare necessities, if you would. There's a toolkit that every single person has to be aware of. Everything beyond that is something that, I'm assuming it's out of the growth for the person. If you're not moving forward, you're moving back. So you have to always have this new thing that you're learning, just like you guys are doing, mashallah. Or it's something that the person is out of interest. They're out of seeking that dopamine, right? Which it has this sweetness to it,
Mhm.
and so and that's welcome. That learn what you love to learn.
Mhm.
If a person, for example, they really enjoy usul al-fiqh. As I remember when I went to Medina, that was actually my thing. I loved usul al-fiqh. That was the class that I would never miss. I'd skip a few other classes, but that was a class where I was like, oh man, I just enjoy it because it was, it's basically logic, and it's the more when fiqh is telling you what, usul is telling you why. It's the best way for me to say it.
Mhm.
So why is salah wajib? Why, what does wajib mean when I take this? When I say wajib or fard or makruh or mubah, why, right? And what does that mean? What does that entail? You'll take, for example, a phrase and you look at it generally, and you'll take another phrase that's a little more specific, and how can we find an overlap between them? That's usul al-fiqh. So that for me was very enjoyable. Other students, they loved hadith. Hadith for them, they'll read about people all day. And the thing is, I'm better with faces than names, so that wasn't my cup of tea. But other people that want to sit and read hadith, and they want to read about the stories of these men, the transmitters, they want to read about the stories and the chronicles of whatever they did, and they open Siyar A'lam al-Nubala by Dhahabi, and they just enjoy it. That's the thing. So whatever you like, be the best at it. That's what I would advise.
And what would you say about one's relationship with the Quran? Like, how would you prioritize that? Because I think the Quran, and there's something just my personal experiences. I've always been attached to it, but there's always been kind of a challenge to understand it and to really benefit from it. Like, how would you recommend people to engage with the Quran better? Because I think even reading a translation would help, but it doesn't have the same impact that it would have if you were to understand it in its original text. Like, how do you recommend people to kind of engage with the Quran and get a better understanding of it? And would you prioritize that over maybe if you just enjoy hadith or seerah or whatnot?
It's definitely a priority. Quran is always number one, because it's the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's always an encouragement, right? And so I will never place anything over the Quran as far as importance. However, I do acknowledge that not everyone is the same, and people are at different phases of their life, and they're at different capabilities. So, for example, a person who's converting, who just converted, for me to expect of them to read a juz' a day, or to read, vast amounts, and to be able to really grasp, and connect with what they're reading, I would actually push them to read about the seerah. And to have certain things that, for example, the small surahs, memorize, master Fatiha, all that stuff, that's definitely important. But I would probably tilt more towards telling them about the life of the Prophet ﷺ, about, these other aspects. And later on, as they grow, then it would start to switch over. Now, if we're talking about serious studies, I would not expect anybody to learn fiqh seriously, to learn usul seriously, to learn aqidah. I would not expect that of them until they have memorized the entire Quran. And this is the way of the scholars, this is the way of even today North Africans. They're like, if you go to them and say, hey, I want to go to this university or go to that, they're like, did you memorize the Quran? If you tell them no, they'll start laughing at you. Go memorize the Quran with the kids. You have to first memorize the Quran before you take that serious dive into halal and haram. That's a personal thing that I hold to myself. Even if you think about it, a scholar who wants to come and issue verdicts, are you going to take him as seriously? Or would you take him as seriously if he was not a hafiz versus if he was a hafiz?
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's
the Quran's the first source.
Exactly.
Where you go.
If the person doesn't have that dedication to lock that down, but he wants to issue halal and haram, I'm not saying you have to be. I'm saying what comes to mind. So and I would classify the Quran a little differently, because it is a ibadah, and so it does have a little bit of it does have that you're kind of taking that sense of ritual and not necessarily information. Not always. So for example, tafsir and the sciences of Quran, that is exploration, right? And the Quran's meanings are always being investigated, and they're always being unearthed, right? And until the day of judgment, people will always learn something new of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how, and the dimensions of the Quran are also, it's very interesting, where a person's personal life is going to change how the ayat affect them, right? So they're going to look at things differently based off of their phases of life, and it'll click at different points, where a person may read something over and over and over again, but then he'll reach a point in his life where he'll be like, wait a minute, it's as if it's the first time I ever understood this verse. So, yes, there is an intellectual side to it, 100%. It's based off of knowledge. This deen wasi'a rabbi kulli shay'in ilma, right? But it does have a ritualistic side to it, where the person recites, and they have to make it a personal mission to have a portion that he's reciting, because that recitation is dhikr. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. So إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equated the Quran as a term to dhikr, to mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. So all of this has to do with Quran. So a person reciting the Quran, it's the same thing as him saying subhanallah, 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 alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, right? Or making dua, or doing salawat. The Quran is actually the prime of all of these others. They're all tertiary when it comes to dhikr. The primary dhikr is the recitation of the Quran. So it's kind of a little bit of both. Yeah. Where you do have to have a portion of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have other things that you do on the side when it comes to people that are doing this passively. As for active learning, a person who's seeking foundational learning and he's trying to do it systematically, you have to memorize the Quran first. That's the opinion that I take. And I mean, I know people disagree, and that's fine, but
I think one really interesting thing that I wanted to comment on, like throughout this like journey that me and Hassan have been going on, You know, like growing up, I went to Islamic school, and I was very much part of a Muslim household, and very much like in that atmosphere. But I feel like I never really like learned my religion on a deep level until I kind of dove into these kind of these books to talk about tazkiyat and nafs and your relationship with Allah. Like the book will talk about, like, it may not even mention prayer. Like it'll just talk about like sin and your relationship with Allah and this and that. And I feel like that was something that was lost in my Islamic upbringing. You know, I feel like we reduce our religion sometimes to just like a set of rules, like halal and haram. And so I think that's something I learned like after graduating, like in my early kind of adulthood. Like, how would you recommend, as a community, we kind of breach this gap earlier and kind of convey this message to our younger kind of teenage and adults kind of at an earlier age? Because I really feel like that was like a really important message that was lost, that I only recently discovered. You know, just like the idea of like loving Allah. You know, like it's not like we do things because we're gonna go to hell or heaven. It's like there's a deeper layer to why we do things, and that is, you know, muhabbatillah, and you know, the seeking Allah's pleasure and things like that. So I don't know, just want to get your take on like Islamic upbringing and kind of understanding like at a deeper level our religion.
I know many people will probably not like what I have to say, but Islamic schools in America, not all of them, but most of them, most of the Islamic schools in America are a reactionary project to where parents are terrified that should they put their children in an environment with, you know, they're surrounding their kids with people who are not Muslim. You know, they're probably singing Christmas carols and, you know, all the Valentine's Day and passing out these. So they're like, all right, we want to take them. It's a reaction. We want to take them out of that environment and seclude them. Mm-hmm. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is it's not forward thinking. If you actually take pause and you look at the institutions that are outstanding, they're the ones that said, well, hold on a second. First, we want to start the equation off with what are we trying to produce, right? Are we trying to produce, you know, people that are just good people, and they know the bare necessities? Well, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get, you know, and if that's hopefully that they even envision that. Some people don't. They're just reactionary. And so what happens is many times you'll find the graduates of Islamic school, it probably wouldn't have been better for them to go to public school, to be honest. And it's not there's no jab at any specific place. This is a generality or a tendency. And in my experience, I haven't seen enough evidence to say that people that graduate from Islamic school are better Muslims than people that did not graduate from Islamic school. I haven't seen it. Rather, what I've seen was that people who had parents that were diligent and their parenting was their school, they're the ones that were successful. You know, whether it's a hifz school that memorizing the Quran, many people have memorized the Quran and many people have forgot the Quran, right? Many people have memorized the Quran, probably did all sorts of stuff. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. You know, or, you know, people that went into public school, they went through the whole route, but they came out huffaz, they came out, you know, great people, mashallah. So for me, the indicator, at least in this point in time, I you know, there are institutions that are doing great jobs. You know, they're producing great, you know, luminary individuals. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. But I would give the success to the parenthood or the parenting more so than the actual school. The solution to that is just like if we were going to say MIT, right? What makes MIT so special? Because they're dedicated to technology. It's actually, I think they make them memorize their mission statement or something. And so it's ingrained in their heads that we're trying to produce technology that makes our worldly life better. And that's just kind of layered in their growth potential. You know, and so you see the product of that afterwards. Islamic schools have to be the same thing, where they're saying, all right, what is it that we're trying to create through this program? and that is going to change how they produce what they or how they establish their curriculum, how they, the milestones that are putting in place, what they're expecting of their students, the metric of, success versus failure. All of that goes back to what is the end game of when they finish their Islamic school. What are we expecting of them? What is it that we have brought forth? Is it just somebody that's just going to get by? They're praying 5 times a day. They know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one. Well, you don't have to go to Islamic school for that. You know what I mean? If it's people that are going to change the course of history, is it going to be leaders that are going to, change the world? That would be a very your whole curriculum is going to change at that point. And so people are starting to catch on to this. But in my when I was younger, I mean, and growing up and seeing these different communities, most people are just trying to get by.
Yeah.
And they're trying. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them.
Yeah. I think that's kind of where like our generation kind of needs to step up a little bit. And be more forward thinkers. Like it's not just survival anymore. It's how do we set our own narrative and maybe take control of what our kids are learning and what we are, how we prioritize our Islamic knowledge and things like that.
Not just what your kids are learning. What are they going to do? Take Imam Ahmed. Imam Ahmed grew up poor, and his mom would do the working. And whenever he would go and work, because he was a very serious person and he didn't like seeing that, he didn't want to ask anyone for anything and he didn't like seeing it from his mom, so he would end up working. And when she would find out, she'd yell at him. Or not yell at him, but like rebuke him, saying, I'm handling it, you go study, because there is a specific thing that I need you to accomplish. And, a single mother produced for society a person whose name is mentioned 1,200 years later. Imam Shafi'i is the same thing too. Imam Bukhari, all of them were raised by single mothers who put their kids on a path, and they made sure that they thrived in that path because they wanted something greater than just I just want him to be I just want him to know the bare necessities. You know what I mean? The mother of Anas ibn Malik, she literally grabbed him and gave him to the Prophet ﷺ and said, watch over my kid, right? He's in your service.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, if I could summarize what you just said, it's basically, an intentionality. Like, what is your intention? What is your long-term goals with this? I think part of growing up in America is that there's a lot of things that kind of encroach on that priority. So that's kind of the thing also that I wanted to touch on briefly in the discussion is what sort of barriers can we anticipate with this sort of path, and how can we kind of address those?
And just to clarify, do you mean like in prioritizing like secular versus like Islamic studies, or
right? Exactly.
Like you is there going to be pushback if we try to prioritize one or the other? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. You only have so much time, and people want you to, accomplish other things, right? And so, how do you think about prioritizing Islam?
They're not mutually exclusive. There are plenty of Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj is a doctor, but he also graduated with and has a very deep fiqh understanding of things. By the way, if you guys want to check out his stuff on fiqh, it's very good. He's very good in the Hanbali madhab. It's I guess the only person that's getting in the way at that point is yourself, right? If you really want something, take for example the MCATs, right? A lot of people take their MCATs during school, right? They have all these exams and projects and this and that, but they're making time for the MCAT. Technically speaking, the MCAT could be taken after, and it's supplementary. It's not part of the program that they're in. What do? They add extra time in seclusion so that they dedicate it for that cause. It's the same thing. من طلب المعالي سهر الليالي. Whoever's reaching out and seeking these great accomplishments, he's gonna stay up at night, right? And so you have to kind of do your due diligence, and it gets, you do also have to have these, I think we spoke about this before, but it's non-negotiables, right? But in the context of your personal life, after I wake up for Fajr, 15 minutes, my adhkar, my Quran, no one gets in the way of that. And who's going to bother you after Fajr? Right? Now the challenge is waking up.
Yeah.
So it's really, at that point, it's yourself. You have to master yourself.
So really, once you get the himma, it's up to you. So where can someone kind of get inspired or motivated? A lot of times I feel like I get that himma, and then it fades away.
It flies away from you.
It flies away.
Then he goes and studies, and then he forgets.
I feel you. Well, I'll have energy for a project that I want to work on, and then just getting caught up with meetings or caught up with this and that, your brain is just drained. And so I feel you. You gotta have a think of it as like what is it called in the blinders, the thing for the sun blockers in your car, you pull it down. You have that picture, that mental picture that you've stowed away. Whenever you need it, you pull it out. It's that mental picture of what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to do, and it's that constant reminder for yourself. And it has to be, I'll say it like this: every one of us has to be a visionary. Every Muslim has to be a visionary, and his vision should be so crazy that if he were to whisper it, people would make fun of him. Every one of us has to have that. Otherwise, what are you doing?
For yourself, or
for yourself,
or for
something that you want to accomplish, something that you want to bring forth to humanity, a goal that makes a difference for the world. You don't tell it to anybody. You keep it to yourself. Those are the ones that they make a difference not just in Islam, in sports, right? Whether it's Messi just winning the World Cup and winning everything else, he won soccer. Or Tom Brady, right? Accomplishing whatever he accomplished. Look, I mean, he did it. Yeah, I'm not a fan, but he did it. So, and now even the ones who don't like him, they're like, yeah, he's the GOAT. Right? There's nothing they can say about it. But I'm pretty sure that if someone who's the 199th round came in and told people what he wants, they'll laugh at him. But then he came in and it created that tenacity, and he proved it. So each of us has to have that. They have to have that one thing about us that, what am I going to do that's going to make me stand out from the rest? And, I'm going to build my life around that. And I need this one thing, which is your Quran, your adhkar, your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That everything else is not important. That's why the people who are old in their age, you find that the ones who are old, they go back to the basics. They're not sitting here repeating Alfiyat ibn Malik. They're not doing this and that. They're just Quran and adhkar, and that's it. Because they know that ultimately that's the thing that they started with, and they're going back to, because they know that that's where the benefit is. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah. I mean, the issues are, it's a complex issue of kind of ingraining that, like, foundational Islamic knowledge and ingraining like a generation of that kind of having that hymn and having
people truly care.
Yeah. And not being like reactive, like you were saying, to the circumstances, but inshallah. Yeah, I think that was beneficial. I think for me and Hassan, hopefully to everyone else, just to kind of set the tone. Like, what should we aim for, and what should we kind of strive for as we continue our careers? Like, this is not an interruption from that. It's in addition to that.
It's an enhancement.
Exactly.
Well, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you guys and everybody else. I think our time, we're a little tight on time, and I rambled a little bit, so I apologize to the folks behind the lens and you guys. Jazakumullah khair for this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Carrying me out and talking about sports and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Thanks for having us.
Hayakumullah. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.